Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would give my little fight breakdown, my fight analysis, and overall my final fight prediction of the fights that are going to be happening tomorrow, or at least the main fight that I'm going to be worried about, which is going to be that of the Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder, versus Zhilei Big Bang Zhang, I believe is his name, the Chinese silver medalist, of course, who you see right here, who of course ended up defeating Joyce on two separate occasions, ended up getting, a very narrow split decision loss, I believe, to that of Filip Pergovic, and of course also lost, I believe, to that of Joseph Parker, either by that of majority decision or that split decision. I can't remember. But anyways, this is going to be a very particularly interesting fight. And the reason why I say this is because both Wilder and Zhang, in my view, they kind of have a little bit of a similar style to where I think that they like to put a lot of damage on their opponents. And that, I think that when you take a look at Zhang, that more than likely he's the more technically superior fighter compared to himself and that of Deontay Wilder. Um, but that being stated, Zhang is a guy that a lot of the times to where if he can't knock you out a little bit early on or hurt you, he will get in a little bit of trouble because he's not the most active fighter. He's a guy that's almost 300 pounds, and you can tell that the level of stamina that he has is just not on the elite level. And that's what kind of cost him, in my view, and that last fight against Joseph Parker. But this is going to be very interesting because a lot of people, I think, right now would probably favor that of Big Bang Zhang, within this fight. And, I might favor him at the end of this video, but I'm also going to break down some of the highlights of these guys' fights of Zhang and that of Deontay Wilder because this fight's really going to depend on so many different factors. First of all, what version of Deontay Wilder are we going to see? Is he going to be a little bit more active throughout this fight? Is he going to go a little bit more for broke throughout this fight because he realizes that in his last fight, he really didn't throw a whole lot. So is Wilder going to go a little bit more offensive within this fight? And if he does, is it going to be more of a positive or more of a negative? Because Deontay Wilder, excuse me, even though, of course, he can go a little bit more offensive or balls to the wall when it comes down to it. Sometimes, of course, it can work against him because Deontay Wilder is a guy to where he gets a little bit too wild and a little bit too crazy. He is not a great defensive fighter, to be honest, and he has a lot of holes in terms of his offense. But Wilder, in my view, is going to have to be a brute within this fight. He is going to have to try to knock Zhilei Zhang out. That's just the style that Deontay Wilder has. And if he isn't trying to do that, if he isn't trying to hurt you, then Deontay Wilder is not going to win the fight. It just is what it is. That being stated, if Zhang is not active enough throughout this fight and if he does not move enough, and overall, once again, if he kind of lets Wilder take command, especially if he's not able to get the stoppage over Deontay Wilder within the first 5 or 6 rounds, there's also a great possibility that Deontay Wilder could win this fight as well, just based off of activity or eventually hitting that of Zhilei Zhang. Now, of course, a lot of people will say, well, take a look at Deontay Wilder's last fight against Joseph Parker. He looked terrible. Zhang did a lot better against that of Joseph Parker, and, overall Wilder barely threw. So why would you assume that he's going to be a little bit more offensive this fight, or at least bring up the possibility? Because Wilder ended up losing his fight very badly last time, and it seems like he knows that he needs to go for broke this time. And on top of that, Zhilei Zhang, in my view, is an easier opponent to beat for Deontay Wilder than what a Joseph Parker ever would be. Because even though, yes, Zhang is big and he's very powerful, and I do think that he's probably a better all-around boxer than what Deontay Wilder is, the thing is that Zhang is going to be an easier target for Deontay Wilder to hit, excuse me. Because Zhang, even though he's a decent boxer and he's very particularly dangerous, and of course he's going to have more power and more size than what a Joseph Parker did, sometimes when you face smaller and speedier fighters like that, it's actually a little bit more troublesome to fight those guys because they're moving, and on top of that, they're very speedy. And you're 6'7" with this 80-something inch arm reach like that of a Deontay Wilder. It's not always easy to hit like that of a moving target. And Joseph Parker is a guy to where I've never found him to be a defensive master. I've never seen him to be someone that was excellent defensively as a fighter. But one thing I'll say about Joseph Parker is at least within that Deontay Wilder fight and many of his other fights, he at least tries to move his head off the center line. Zhang will try to move his head off the center line, but it's not to an elite degree. And when you talk about fighting someone like that of a Deontay Wilder, as Deontay Wilder has always stated, he has to only be perfect for 1 second. You have to be perfect for 12 rounds. However, that being stated, Wilder is probably, for the first time ever in the boxing ring, going to be in there with a boxer to where that fighter could probably state the same exact thing back to him within that of Zhilei Zhang, because I don't know if Zhang quite has the same amount of power as what a Deontay Wilder does within his right hand, or within his hands, but it's pretty damn close. And this dude Zhang, not only is he big, but he's got legitimate A-grade level power. And it isn't even just like Tyson Fury's either, where in my view Tyson Fury has probably about A-minus level power. Zhang looks like he has about A-plus to at least A-grade level power. This dude can actually punch. So not only is he really big, but on top of that, he's got great natural punching ability. So it really just depends on who starts off better within the fight and who is more active. Will Deontay Wilder be more active? Will he be able to hit Zhang with something that stuns him? Will Zhang be able to hit Wilder with something that stuns him? In my view, whoever wins this fight is pretty much going to be because whoever lands the first major punch. And it's going to be interesting because I could see Wilder winning this fight because he was a little bit more active, and I could see Zhang winning this fight because he's a little bit more active. I think that if Zhang is going to win the fight, more than likely, Wilder's going to probably be a little bit more active at the first start, if I had to guess. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that, because Wilder is a guy that's always had a little bit of a difficult time with being opportunistic, especially against guys that are lengthy and tall, just like him. He's not been a guy that has ever been a volume puncher. He's not a guy that's going to throw a whole lot. All his punches are meant to hurt you. But at the same time, Zhang also is not a guy that really probably has a whole bunch of volume either. Now, at the beginning of the fight, it's very possible that Wilder could be a little bit more active. It's very possible that Zhang could be a little bit more active. I'm not really sure. If I had to maybe predict, maybe Zhang, maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if Wilder started off a little bit more active either, especially if Zhang allows certain punches to get in there. But anyways, let's see, the first fight, at least overall, the highlights. And let me also give credit to the channel, Mr. TNT Sports Boxing, for providing that of the highlights for this video, which I'm sure more than likely I'm also going to get for the Deontay Wilder highlights that I'm going to review. And I'm going to point out some of the things that both Zhang and Wilder do well in my view, and also certain things that I don't like that they do. So anyways, let's get straight into it. Let's see what Zhang and Mr. Joyce, let's see what they have to bring to the table.
Joyce puts his unbeaten record on the line against a very dangerous man in Zhilei Zhang. Both have power, and if the pre-fight talk is anything to go by, they both intend to use it. Zhang early will look to make a mark, Richie, I'm sure.
The first thing that I'll state is this. When you take a look at Mr. Zhilei Zhang, he uses his lead hand very well. And that's a part of the reason of why I state that Zhilei Zhang, in my view, he is the superior boxer compared to that of Deontay Wilder. I think that he has a more disciplined lead hand. I think that he has a smarter lead hand. But that being stated, Wilder is going to have still great reach, just like that of Zhilei Zhang. He may even be a little bit lengthier than that of a Zhilei Zhang. And like I said, it's only going to take one good hit, potentially, to hurt Zhang with something. I think that Zhang is a guy that apparently has a great chin. He looks like he has even a better chin than Deontay Wilder, but so did Luis Ortiz. And Zhang is a guy to where he moves his head off better, probably than some other fighters that I've seen. But he doesn't quite move his head off the center line or move his head quite as well as what a Joseph Parker has been able to do. Parker was a speedy guy. He was a smaller guy. And on top of that, he was a quicker guy. It was always going to be hard for Deontay Wilder to try and completely outbox that guy. And I'm not sure if Wilder's going to completely outbox Zhang either. But Wilder would definitely have a better chance of outboxing Zhang, or at least overall, potentially landing more punches against him than what he would Parker. Because not only is he a bigger target, but he's a guy that doesn't move incredibly well. He's a guy that moves somewhat, okay, but it's not to the elite level. And you're going to see that sometimes with Zhang, that even though at times he does move his head off the center line, it's not to an elite degree.
Zhang looking to land his first power shot. Just starting to open up. Joyce takes the first big shot, bounces off that granite-like chip.
And once again, not to interrupt this too quickly here, but that's going to be basically the main two punches that Wilder's going to have to look out for within this fight. Zhang loves to throw that right hook over the top to try and counter the lead hand. And it's going to be interesting because I don't know if Zhang has ever fought a fighter that's ever been as lengthy as what Deontay Wilder has been. So it could be that the right hook is going to put Deontay Wilder in trouble. It could be maybe that he just misses, or maybe he does hit Wilder, but then Wilder ends up hitting him with a right hand right down the pipe. And he got a little bit too wild and crazy right here in my view for my own taste. But he's able to get away with that with Joe Joyce because Joe Joyce is not particularly speedy. He's also not particularly movable. Now, Deontay Wilder is not a great mover either. He does not have great head movement. He does not have great defense. But once again, Wilder has excellent, excellent power. And he's faster than what a Joe Joyce is, even at this age. So we'll see.
Joe Joyce, although the man who hits like this, you don't want to take too many of them. It's a confident start from Zhang. He's landed with some good left hands and that right hook. So Joyce has got to keep that movement going. He's got to move more to his left, but he's got to watch out for the right hook as he's moving to the left. But he's certainly been caught with a couple of big shots. The big shots have come from Zhang early. Zhang is...
Got to watch out for stuff like that right there. Of course, Joe Joyce, it didn't look like he landed that flush. It looked like it landed on the chest of that of Zhilei Zhang. But Zhang's got to be careful of that because he's got to keep his hands relatively up. You don't have to keep them up the whole entire time, of course, like that of a high guard. But at the end of the day, you got to keep your hands up. You know, you got to keep a very stiff jab in there. You got to get in there and get out very quickly. Zhang also is not the speediest guy. So this is going to be very particularly interesting because Wilder, even at this age, I believe he's about 37, 38 years old maybe, whatever age he is right now, maybe even a bit older, I don't know. Wilder is a little bit speedier than that of a Zhang. Now, Zhang, once again, in my view, he has a better and more disciplined lead hand than that of the Deontay Wilder. Wilder is not a guy that has an extremely intelligent lead hand. He has a good lead hand when it's at his best, but it's not extremely intelligent. He has a very hard time at getting the lead hand in there consistently, especially with that of elite level boxers, you know, or boxers that are going to challenge his height and length. That's why Deontay Wilder had such a problem, not only with Joseph Parker, but that of Tyson Fury, even in certain fights against Gerald Washington and other fights like that. Wilder, you know, Luis Ortiz, he has a good jab at his best, but he doesn't have a great jab. So Zhilei Zhang is going to be the sharper boxer in here. But will that be enough of a factor to defeat that of Deontay Wilder? We'll see. Because Zhang seems to know how to use his lead hand not only as a range finder, but also as for a defense. And on top of that, you know, to parry and counter overall certain punches. Wilder can do it to somewhat of a degree, but it's nowhere near, or it's not on the level of a Zhang in my view.
Southpaw, he's only been in one southpaw as a pro, Joe Joyce. That was Lenroy Thomas back in 2018. But of course, the standard of the man he's in there, the southpaw he's in there tonight, is significantly higher. Got to move a little bit more to his left here.
One thing you'll notice that Zhang also is doing here, though, is that he's leaning back once again because he's preparing for Joe Joyce to throw either a lead hand or a right cross, and he's preparing to land either that left hand down the pipe or that right hook over the top, you know, or a quick jab, you know, straight down the middle. So that's what Zhang likes to do. But in my view, this is something that could be a little bit of a disadvantage for him because Wilder does not really have great feet in boxing. When you talk about foot positioning and, you know, the ability to move the feet, Zhang probably has better feet in terms of that. But in terms of foot speed, Wilder probably does have better foot speed than that of Zhang. It's not, you know, once again, it's not elite footwork. Zhang has the better footwork. But at the end of the day, this is going to be interesting once again because Wilder is not a guy, once again, that is weak in terms of power. He can knock you out with one shot at any given time, especially with the right hand. And Zhang, you know, he's a guy that, you know, he has good feet, but he's not a guy that uses his foot movement to the best of his ability. And, you know, you kind of expect that because he's a guy that's almost 300 pounds, even bigger than what a Tyson Fury is. You can tell that he's a bit sluggish. And on top of that, I mean, the man is about 40 years old. So, I mean, he's going to have to use his feet, you know, somewhat better within this fight, or at least be careful because a lot of the times he'll lean back. And at times, of course, that can be a great way to counter somebody. But if you're not taking a half step back or a full step back at times to use your feet, then you're going to get caught. And like I said, Wilder is lengthy. So is it possible that Zhang is going to get hit with something because he did not expect Wilder's right hand or his range to land overall as quickly or as, you know, as far out as what it did? It's very possible. He's got to watch out because there's been multiple fights now, not just this one, where I've seen Zhang, where there's been multiple fighters to where they landed on his chest and it didn't appear like he moved out of the range well enough. So let's see.
Fletch as Joe Joyce, a little bit static.
Once again, that overhand left right there. That's what Zhang is going to be looking for. He's going to be looking for Wilder to overextend that right hand or to try to land that right hand. he's going to duck it over to the left and try to land that left over the top. That's what he's going to try to do. And he could be very successful against Wilder because Wilder does not move his head very well. He's not a good defensive fighter. So once again, going to be very, very, very particularly interesting. And of course, he's also going to try to land that right hook, over the top as well. So Wilder's going to have to really watch out for that. And to be honest with you, I'm not really quite sure if he's great at avoiding either of those punches. And let me tell you something, if Wilder does get hit by Zhang, which I can assure you more than likely that it's going to happen unless Wilder hits him, very early on, Wilder's going to feel those shots. And, Wilder is a guy to where once he starts to feel the shots that you're throwing, especially if you have a decent amount of power, he will kind of retreat. So once again, this fight is really going to depend on who lands what first. Now the question is that who has more of a chance of landing what first? We'll see.
Joyce has this ridiculously tough chin. Every time he's been hit on it as a professional, it just bounces off. It's going to be tested again tonight, though, by a man who can really hit. It's one of those heavyweight fights that you can't take your eyes off because it could change at any second. Good work from Zhang.
Excellent right hook.
Nice and accurate, plenty of power as well. He's made a good start here, Zhang, and did Joyce just take a backward step, Richie, there?
Yes, most certainly did. Got caught there left hand and that right hook. The right hook in particular, I think, is very dangerous from Zhang. But a goal!
Big shot from Zhang! Joe Joyce in trouble! Joe Joyce in a lot of trouble! Well, that's something you don't see very often at all.
Tremendous shot, straight left hand from Zhang. Also, the right hook is his danger shot as well. So Joyce, he's got real problems in there. He's got to recover, and again gets caught, Fletch.
Straight shot right down the middle. Those legs of Joe Joyce are...
Do you own your home but still rent your electricity? If you pay more than $50 a month in electricity, then...
Wobbly. There's over a minute to go in the second round, and Zhang started this fight fantastically.
Again, more movement.
One thing also stated by Mr. Big Bang Zhang is that his hands are up a lot more than that of Deontay Wilder's. Wilder is a guy to where he doesn't really have a very excellent high guard when he needs to. And keeping the high guard, of course, for too long, that actually limits your, defense and your offense because it can kind of blind you to a certain degree and cause certain fighters, to get in certain punches that maybe other non-experienced fighters would not be able to get in. Zhang has a better guard than that of Deontay Wilder. But once again, Wilder is a guy to where it only takes that one shot to slip in through in the guard. So it's going to be interesting because I find Zhang once again to be the better technical fighter of the two. But he's going to have to be active. He's going to have to throw a jab in Deontay Wilder's face and on his chest to really get him to fear him. He's going to have to start off a little bit more active within this fight, to see overall once again, if he can get Deontay Wilder to kind of back up and if he can kind of get him to submit, which in my view more than likely you can, if that is what your game plan is. But we'll see. What Zhang is going to have to do is that he's going to have to make sure that he lands a good punch in round one against Deontay Wilder. That's what he's going to have to do. If he lands a very good punch against Deontay Wilder and really wobbles him, which I assure you can happen if he lands a very great punch, just like he did against Joe Joyce here, Wilder will start to retreat in my view. More than likely. But what Zhang needs to make sure to do is that he's not getting hit, overall once again with that right hand. And also, it would not hurt to go to the body. One thing I noticed about Zhang is that he's not a guy that likes to go to the body a whole lot. He headhunts quite a bit. Every once in a while, you'll see a left uppercut to the body. We've seen it a little bit against Joseph Parker. Go to the body against Deontay Wilder. Because Deontay Wilder, one of his new techniques is that he is going to try to jab you to that of the body. He's going to try to jab you to the belly. So, try to get him, within that of the body a little bit early on, or at least mix it up.
From the left to the left, that's what he's got to do. That's better. That's a better attack from Joyce. He's got to close that gap down now. Get to him.
Zhang now knows as well that he can hurt Joe Joyce, and that's significant for him in terms of his psychological approach to the fight and the confidence that he has in there. 50 seconds to go in the second round. It's been a really good round for Zhilei Zhang so far. Joe Joyce shaken up. Joe Joyce hurt. This looked like a dangerous fight when it was made. It looked as though Joe Joyce was taking potentially an unnecessary risk, and a lot of that is coming.
Zhang needs to be careful of not overextending in certain exchanges like that. because he may be able to get away with that against slower opponents like that of a Joyce, or smaller ones like that of a Joseph Parker. He's going to have to be careful against Wilder because, once again, if he overextends the wrong way or if he gets a little bit too wild, like kind of what he is right here, it could lead to him potentially getting knocked out. So he's going to have to be a little bit more defensively responsible than what he even is in some of these other fights. He's going to have to be careful.
To roost here in the opening minutes of this fight here. There's a lot of damage already to the face of Joyce as well. There's that left again, Richard.
Left, so, things are going his way, and he looks the more comfortable boxer in there.
We didn't think this would be a heavyweight fight that would let us
Excellent left.
down, and that's the case. Joyce took that shot really well.
And that also is going to be something for Deontay Wilder. Don't overextend your right hand and get the hell out of the zone very quickly because this dude can punch. And I promise you that if he lands a good left or a good right on that of Deontay Wilder's skull, Wilder's going to feel that shit. And Wilder, I don't think, has quite the chin of what a Joyce does or some of the other guys. I mean, he has a decent chin, but he doesn't have what I would call a granite chin. He can be hurt. So once again, it's going to be very particularly interesting to see who can hit who first within this fight. Who would I bet on who to hit who first? Well, if you're talking about a major shot, I would probably go with Zhang. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Wilder. I think Wilder possibly may start off landing more punches. I could be wrong. Maybe more lead hands, especially to that of the body. But I do believe that more than likely eventually that Zhang is going to hit Wilder with something major. And I think that it's going to cause a disruption in that of Wilder's game plan. But we'll see.
Good punch again from Zhang. Joyce standing his ground a lot more in the third round, asking questions of Zhang himself.
Bit better work from Joyce, just trying to get back into this contest. Volumes coming from Joyce, but the eye-catching stuff is most certainly from Zhang.
That's the end of the third round.
The end of that third round was very particularly interesting as well because Zhang, of course, was landing good shots, but as you've seen within the final 20-some seconds right there, Zhang was starting to tire out a little bit. Zhang is not a guy with elite level stamina. He's a guy that has about 5 or 6 rounds of stamina. Of course, from what I've seen, he's never been dropped. And of course, also, he's never been stopped. But once again, if there's a first time for anything, it would be this fight. He does not have elite level stamina. And in order to beat that of Deontay Wilder, you need to be consistent. For those of you, of course, that remember the Luis Ortiz fights, Luis Ortiz was pretty much beating Deontay Wilder's ass on both occasions, in my view, in the Deontay Wilder fights. And Wilder, of course, was able to stop him a little bit later on. I think Wilder was able to stop him in the first fight in about round 9, round 10 or something like that. And then, of course, in the rematch, he stopped him in round 7, knocked him out cold, with a good right hand, with a 10 count. So once again, Zhang is going to have to be active within this fight because the longer this fight goes, if you give Deontay Wilder a little bit more confidence, that may not end up well for you. And like I stated, of course, in the last fight Deontay Wilder was in against that of Joseph Parker, the longer the fight went, it didn't change much. But that's because Parker, once again, was so speedy. And on top of that, he was always changing levels. He was always moving his head off the center line. Zhang isn't anywhere near as speedy, and he doesn't move as much as what a Joseph Parker does. So he doesn't use his feet. He doesn't use his head movement as much as what a Joseph Parker did. So once again, Wilder has more of a chance to win this fight than what he did the Joseph Parker fight. So once again, it's going to be very particularly interesting to see what Zhang is able to do. I'm going to fast forward it, I believe, either to the 5th or the 6th round. But Zhang keeps a better guard up, than that of Deontay Wilder. But of course, within that high guard, as we've seen within the end of that round, be careful of Deontay Wilder's body shots. Because Deontay Wilder, I do believe more than likely is going to try to go to the body a little bit, whether it be the right hand or whether it be, the left, whatever it is, especially if you get a little bit too close within range. Wilder is going to try to go to your body a little bit more, but we'll see. So Zhang is going to have to watch out for that because if Wilder is able to land some successful body shots at first, and I promise you that if he lands them flush, that they're going to hurt, Zhang may start to drop his guard down a little bit more up top. Which means what? That might lead to a right hand coming straight down the pipe. So Zhang needs to be careful. He needs to be disciplined with his lead hand. He needs to establish distance correctly. He needs to use his feet a little bit more in this fight than what he regularly does. I'm talking about foot movement, not necessarily the way that his feet are positioned or move. That seems, decent. He seems to have good feet, but he needs to move his feet a little bit more against Wilder at times, move in and outside of the range a little bit more, which I'm not quite sure if he can do because he's a guy that, once again, does not have great stamina, and that might just wear him out a little bit too much. To be honest with you, I've never seen a fight where he ended up using his feet to that elite of a degree. So we'll see. Once again, that could be an advantage for Deontay Wilder. Not that I think that Wilder has the better feet compared to Zhang, but that he has at times more foot movement and that he'll at least kind of move in and outside of the range. So we'll see. Okay, so this is going to be the final part of the Zhang versus Joyce fight. Of course, this was the first fight, and we're going to see the end part of the 5th round, as well as the 6th round as well, where the fight was eventually stopped.
Fair to allow Joyce to incur on that eye. It'll be a big decision for the referee. Zhang's looked pretty cool, calm and collected from the opening bell. Final few seconds of the 5th. But a better round for Joe.
Once again, you can tell that Zhang is a little bit tired here. Not only is he not defending the body shots well, but he's keeping his hands down a little bit lower because he wants to entrap Joyce into getting thrown into his counter punches, or basically enticing him into getting counter punched. Once again, Zhang does not have great stamina. So, like I said, could that be in Deontay Wilder's favor? It certainly could be, especially if Zhang is not able to get him out of there within the first half of the fight. If he does not get Wilder out of there within the first half of the fight, we may see Wilder start to come back a little bit or potentially knock him out even within that of the latter rounds. I think that if Deontay Wilder, I think that more than likely if he is going, to win this fight by knockout, which I assume more than likely that would be the case, but you never know. What I'm thinking is that Wilder's either going to get it very early within the first 2 rounds or he's going to get it late, somewhere within rounds 8, 9, or 10. But we'll see. You never know.
Joyce, in terms of that work rate and volume of punches, he's outworked Zhang in this round, no question.
Zhang, once again, actually is a pretty decent inside fighter. He keeps his guard up very well, and he counters on the inside relatively well. But Deontay Wilder is not going to want to keep this fight on the inside. Wilder is not an inside-level fighter. Wilder is a guy, and you can see this with a lot of fighters to where you can tell that their ability is a little bit more limited, especially in terms of the offensive ability. They prefer, or even defensive, they prefer to keep it within the mid-range the whole entire time, or especially within that of the long range. Wilder, of course, is a knockout artist, but he's not a guy that will go for the kill as much as what you may think. Wilder wants you to be set up. He wants you to run into his right hand. Now, if he has to pressure you, of course, he's going to. But when you notice Deontay Wilder gets knockouts, it's usually with him on the back foot, whether it be that of Artur Spiltzka, whether it be that of Robert Lenius, whether it be that of Luis Ortiz. It's usually him on the back foot. That's what Deontay Wilder wants to do. Because for a lot of fighters, it's easier for them to be on the back foot because they can see more than likely where you're going. They can see what your attacks are going to be. It's a little bit easier at times on the back foot. When you're on the front foot or within the mid-range and you're pressuring, that takes a certain skill set level that certain boxers don't have.
Look at that eye, Fletch. Now, Joyce, all or nothing now, because that eye is not going to be able to take much more damage.
How long will Howard Foster let it go?
That's the big question here. And again, he's getting caught left, right and centre with that left hand from Zhang. Again, the movement's a little bit more to the right. He's moving on to that shot. Got to move to his left. Too static and getting caught with that straight left hand every time. And Howard Foster's now having another look.
Here comes the doctor again for the second time in round 6.
But anyways, that pretty much is the end of this little highlight reel right here. But just to talk about Mr. Zhang, what advantages or disadvantages do I believe that he has going into this fight? I do believe that he will be the technically superior fighter compared to that of Deontay Wilder. I think that he has a more disciplined jab. I think that when you talk about defense, that he probably is the more defensively gifted fighter of the two. I wouldn't call him a defensive wizard necessarily or a defensive master, but I would say that, he's better defensively than that of Deontay Wilder. Those would be the advantages that I would say that he has coming into this fight. And of course, he also has the better feet and he has better counter punches over the top, which I believe would more than likely give him advantage within this fight. So if you're asking me to predict who would win this fight, I am going to go with that as Zhang, more than likely within that of a stoppage of anywhere within rounds 5 to 7. But we'll see overall what ends up happening. But Zhang, I do believe, he has his certain advantages. But let's go to Deontay Wilder. Maybe watch 1 or 2 clips of highlights of his. And let's see what he brings to the table. Okay, so this is going to be a video clip of Wilder versus that of Robert Helenius, which of course was a fight that I believe happened about 1.5 years or a couple years ago. I can't necessarily remember. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to review this one, and I may review the Joseph Parker one, I'm not necessarily sure, maybe a little bit, but the reason why I wanted to pay more attention to this one is because Robert Helenius, in my view, would be more similar to that of a Zhang than what a Joseph Parker would be, because Joseph Parker and Zhang, they're both decently skilled opponents for the heavyweight division, but Zhang is not really quite the same fighter as what a Joseph Parker is. He's not as short as what a Joseph Parker is compared to that of Wilder. He's nowhere near as speedy. He doesn't use his feet to move in and outside of the range anywhere near as much, and he doesn't move his head off the center line quite as much. Now, Robert Helenius is a guy to where he's definitely, in terms of boxing ability, he's definitely not a Zhang or a Joseph Parker. He's a guy that is very straightforward, very poor defensively. He's a guy that would basically be a regular European fighter. Someone that's going to get through the ranks and then eventually, pretty much get stopped or beaten by every elite opponent. But I just thought that this would be very particularly interesting to take a look at. And then we might take a look at Wilder versus Parker or somebody else. But anyways, let's take a look here. Let's see what Robert Helenius had to bring to the table.
Deontay Wilder, 214.5 pounds, 24 pounds lighter than he was for Tyson Fury the last boxer. But again, we've seen him starch guys, Lennox, with a right hand when he has been this light.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's going to start off with...
And could the weight potentially be a factor for that of Zhang? It could be, but to be honest with you, for the weight also to be a factor, of course the power is going to be there, but the weight would have to be a little bit more of a factor if Zhang was actually going to try and tie up Deontay Wilder and tire him out and move on him, kind of like what Tyson Fury did. Then the weight would be a factor, which is why I was a little bit surprised as to why he wasn't trying to move around Usyk a little bit more within the clinches. It seemed like he kind of gave up on early within the clinches and that he wasn't really trying to use his weight, which kind of confused me. But I'm going to be releasing a video about that very soon as well. But anyways, let's see what Wilder has to bring to the table against Mr. Robert Helenius.
the job and show us some.
Michael Griffin is the referee. Might look familiar. He had Ruiz Joshua 1 at Madison Square in the history of heavyweight boxing. We're underway. Robert Helenius in the white trunks, Deontay Wilder in the black and gold. You see two large men in there, 6'7", 6'6 and a half. Long and rangy. Helenius is the man moving forward so far.
As you see with Wilder's lead hand, it's not quite as good as that of a Zhang. Wilder, a lot of the times, and I'm not stating that he can use his jab as a distance range finder, but it's not as technical as what a Zhang's is. Zhang has way more use and way more IQ with his lead hand ability than what a Deontay Wilder does. And not only will he use it as a range finder and to get in the lead hand and, also use it as a defense, he also will use it as a setup to not only counter you with the left hand, but also with the right hook over the top. And Wilder's going to have to watch out for that. I do believe that Wilder is going to eventually get hit with the right hook over the top. I could be wrong, but we'll see. That's personally what I believe Wilder, that if he gets hurt very early on, it could be a left hand. It definitely could be. But I think that right hook is going to be a major factor early on.
Deontay has been known to take his time, wait for the counter shot, knowing that he's got one of the best right hands in the history of the sport.
By Deontay at the moment.
And you can tell that Deontay Wilder, that he does not have great defense, especially when someone is backing him up or throwing punches. Wilder, once again, a lot of the times he'll keep both hands down near his waist in order to defend a certain punch. which means what? That it means it leaves his head wide open. Wilder is not a good defensive fighter. He makes a lot of flaws, not only offensively, but especially defensively. He's never been a greatly skilled fighter. He's been a greatly talented fighter, especially because of his athleticism. And of course, he has something in terms of the way of skills. But in terms of his skill set, is he ever going to be a Fury or an Usyk or, some of these other guys, even a Joseph Parker, an AJ Anthony Joshua, even a Zhang? No, he's never going to be those guys. But with the skills that he has and the combined power that he has, he's always going to be dangerous.
The circle in the ring.
Well, he's going to slow down eventually. I mean, to land that right hand like this, he's gonna finally find a sweet spot.
But as you see, Deontay Wilder's new game plan is to kind of move around his opponents a little bit. Now, he might try, to actually go at Zhang. But like I've always stated, just because you're a knockout artist doesn't mean that you like to do it in terms of pressuring that type of fighter. When you talk about knockout artists or the fighters that can knock someone out, that can pressure somebody, you're talking about fighters like David Benavidez, Canelo, Vasily Lomachenko, Alexander Usyk. Fury can do it at times. Naoya Inoue can do it at times. Wilder, for example, and fighters like Guillermo Rigondeaux, they prefer for you to come to them, because in their mind that means that you're already at the disadvantage and they can see a lot of your moves before you even end up doing it. So once again, Wilder, even though a lot of people take a look at him as this killer knockout artist, which he is, he doesn't do it in quite the way as what a lot of people would think. He has to be on the back foot. He has to be within the mid-range so he can set you up.
Slow down like that.
And as you see, Deontay Wilder try to go to the body there against Robert Lenius. Once again, Zhang is going to have to be very careful of that. He's going to have to be very careful of that, because Deontay Wilder, I promise you, is going to try to go to the body a little bit early against that of Zhilei Zhang. It's going to be interesting to see how successful he's going to be. But if he hits Zhang with a great right hand to the body and then it stuns Zhang early or gets his attention, it may lead Zhang to drop his hands to his head down to his body. And that may cause, for Deontay Wilder to pause and then look up towards the head and catch him with the right hand, which of course could knock him out. So once again, we'll see what happens.
I'm always going off the move right here.
Just want to mention too, Joe, again, Deontay is coming off back-to-back losses. Again,
Process of a training camp, and if you have a great training camp, you can expel those demons. And
Wilder will advertise his right hand. At least at times he will. That's one of the ways that you can avoid Deontay Wilder's right hand. Sometimes it comes in there super quick and crisp at times, but a lot of the times he will advertise it. He'll do as what certain people will say, the arching, form, or the archer form of, that throwing that right hand, where the right hand, it is, it's clearly advertised.
wide right hand over the top.
that bad feeling. I think he's probably got a lot of confidence coming into this fight.
It seemed that way, but again, I don't want to look past it.
Forward. And I think he's done that. And, he spent a lot of time in the gym, a lot of time in sparring, a lot of time on this fight for him.
And Helenius, at the age of 38, having been through everything that he's Helenius in there, taking a good long look at
Once again, when you take a look at Wilder's inside work there, Wilder is not an inside fighter at all. At all. He has almost no inside fighting ability whatsoever. He has to completely fight within either the mid-range or on the back foot. He has no inside fighting ability whatsoever. None.
Deontay Wilder as he shoves him back after this.
Push him, Robert.
Again, not being swallowed by the moment early on.
No, this is the first round. Feel out into his warming up. He's moving around, getting used to the ring.
Right hand. Kind of wide there by Helenius, but just looking to touch his opponent.
As you can tell, Wilder's feet are very clunky as well. He shifts them in the wrong position, and a lot of the times they're not very coordinated. A lot of the times he'll shuffle his feet within that of the wrong position. Zhang definitely has better feet than that of Wilder. There's no question about it, but Wilder does have the quicker feet. Whether they're incorrect or not, it could get him out of the range sooner. So once again, Zhang's going to have to be careful of that. And he's going to have to be active enough to make sure that he hits Deontay Wilder and to put him in his proper place. Because Wilder, once again, is not a guy that you want to give time.
Both men. Right hand!
And there, of course, is the excellent right hand. Once again, Wilder was not great defensively there, but it was enough, once again, to get Robert Lenius, because Robert Lenius overextended there. And on top of that, he never moves his head. And Zhang is a guy, once again, where he moves his head better than what Robert Lanius does, but he doesn't move his head to an excellent degree, you know? So, once again, he's going to have to be careful of that. But we're going to watch one more Deontay Wilder clip from another fight, and then, you know, that's pretty much going to be the end of the video, and then I'll give you guys who I believe more than likely is going to win the fight. Okay, so this is going to be the final clip that I'm possibly going to review of that of Mr. Deontay Wilder. And this is going to be his fight against that of Mr. Dominic Breazeale. Now, once again, I would do footage from that of the Joseph Parker fight, but I just don't think that Joseph Parker, that he's quite the same. But, you know, to be fair, I might actually do a little bit of footage from the Joseph Parker fight for this video. I'll probably do a little bit of it, you know, not the full thing, but probably a little bit of it just to show, in my view, what Wilder can bring to the table, both positively and negatively. But this is his fight against Dominic Breazeale. Someone that, of course, was very similarly tall in terms of length and also height, you know, when it comes down to it. And, of course, someone that he was able to knock out because he was a little bit too stiff. But anyways, let's see what Deontay Wilder, let's see what he likes to do. And, by the way, also credit to the video creator, I believe, That's Why MMA. I'll put his link down in the description below, of course, for giving great highlights.
Knockouts. Referee is Harvey Dock. This is knockouts. Dominic Breazeale. The bell and round one. Breazeale hoping to produce Wilder. Wilder obliterated him in the rematch, and Wilder told us Breazeale exactly.
Wilder, a lot of the times when you take a look at his punches, they're all meant to land. And when you talk about an elite caliber boxer, not every punch is meant to land. And that's why sometimes you see certain boxers get completely countered so easily, because they're thinking that every punch needs to land. And not every punch is meant to land. Some punches are meant to fake you out. They're meant to be feints, you know, or they're meant, you know, kind of to set you up for something. Like I said, when you take a look at the lead hand ability of Deontay Wilder and Zhang, it's really not even relatively close. Zhang clearly has better lead hand ability. He clearly has better technical ability. It just is what it is. As we see right there, Deontay Wilder, even when he was still undefeated as a fighter against that of Dominic Breazeale, you know, he has a decent lead hand, but it's not, you know, an elite lead hand. Because if you have an elite lead hand, you can use your lead hand for several different things.
The same way as he lands the 1-2 counter. We've talked Breazeale having 18 knockouts total. Wild KOs. Ooh, going to the body with that left hand. And that's something his trainer, former double punch volley, go to the body with the right and then the right uppercut on the inside.
He's shaking his head. He's getting hit with
Well,
the right
and
hand.
that's been the thing already hurt. Wilder.
Top of the head.
All over Breazeale. Mauling Breazeale.
And Dominic Breazeale got hit there because overall, once again, he doesn't change head levels enough. And he just stayed way too inside the range. But Dominic Breazeale, and I remember this fight, he actually hit something with Deontay Wilder. I think he hit him with a right hook that actually hurt Deontay Wilder. You see Wilder was actually wobbled a little bit there within that last punch. So let's see what happened there.
The right and then the right uppercut on the inside.
He's shaking his head. He's getting hit with the
Well,
right
and
hand.
that's been the thing already hurt. Wilder.
Top of the head.
All over Breazeale. Mauling Breazeale. Oh, but Breazeale comes back with a...
As you see Wilder, once again, he was a little bit wobbly leg there because Wilder can get a little bit too wild and crazy. But his power is usually so much to where when he hits you, usually the opponent cannot recover.
Landed on top of the head. Now you got on the chin ring and you were on the face.
And Wilder claimed that it was a shot behind the head. No, it wasn't a shot behind the head. You were just getting a little bit too crazy, and Wilder, you ended up getting hit in return. But that's regular Deontay Wilder.
Throw with him and
And of course, Dominic Breazeale, you know, probably thought maybe a body punch was coming, or maybe that is something like that. But Dominic Breazeale, once again, no head level changes, stayed way too inside the range. If you're going to beat Deontay Wilder, not only do you have to have your hands up, you know, a decent amount of the time, but you have to see when that right hand is coming in. On top of that, you have to overall use your feet and not to stay within the range the whole entire time. Wilder's one of those fighters, a lot like Adrian Broner, to where if you push him back, you know, he shows a lot of his weaknesses. But if you stay in the middle of the ring with him and pretty much give him way too much respect, he's going to be able to outbox you, and he's going to be able to hurt you and potentially knock you out. So that's not going to work. But anyways, because this video clip was so short, I might watch the replay on the knockout here. Because, of course, this was one of the more devastating knockouts that I had seen within my history. But, you know, after this, maybe we'll watch a little bit of the Wilder versus Parker one.
You're feeling it in Breazeale. Mamma mia!
land it on a regular basis. That was a...
Once again, when you take a look at Brazil, he does not change levels well enough. And to be honest with you, Zhang is another guy that doesn't change levels extremely well either. Now, he's a guy that changes levels better than Dominic Brazil. But like I said, he's going to have to be careful within this fight because it's not like he has super duper elite head movement. But I do believe that Wilder will eventually run into something that Zhang throws.
Very seldom used.
The kind of fight he's going to fight and how successful he's going to be. He's
How Brazil was trying to get inside and walk him down, but
what's the difference? The difference is here's Wilder when he...
You shouldn't be standing in front of Deontay Wilder like that and just expecting overall for your high guard to completely guard against that right hand. Wilder is too quick, and on top of that, he's just way too powerful. You don't want to ever risk that. That's why Tyson Fury, once he started to really kind of underestimate Wilder's ability within that third fight, he thought eventually that he was just going to walk in front of Wilder and block it on his hands or his arms. And that, Wilder eventually was just going to tumble when he was eventually able to get on the inside. And he figured wrong. He ended up getting knocked down very badly within that third fight a couple of times, and he ran straight into it. So once again, use your feet against Deontay Wilder. Get him to offset a little bit to throw himself off balance. And then you can get back within the range, stick that lead hand within his face or wait for him to overextend. You can kind of see when the right hand is going to come. Don't just stand right in front of there with Deontay Wilder and then let him move off the range. That's not going to work. That was one of the ways that both Fury and Parker beat him, is that they had to use their feet to move in and outside, right? In and outside of the range. You can't just stay in there and not move your head, and on top of that, not use your foot movement against Deontay Wilder. You're going to have to. It is what it is. Now, Zhang, once again, might be able to get away with it a little bit more because he's so powerful, and on top of that, he's decently, technical, and he's a guy that's so big. But once again, that still could provide problems for that Zhang. We'll see what happens. Let's now go to the Joseph Parker example. Let's see. All right, so let's see within this video once again. Big thanks overall to that of That's Why MMA. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Provides very great highlights. I'll put his link down in the description below. And this is going to show Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker and some of the issues that Wilder had with Parker. But like I stated, and I would have showed Tyson Fury, but I don't think that Zhang uses his feet to the same ability as what a Tyson Fury does. And on top of that, I never really watched the highlights of this fight, quite as much. So let's see what Joseph Parker was able to do.
I think a shootout would be a bad decision for Joseph Parker. You got to pick your spots.
I think that may be his reason.
nice right hand there from Parker. He lands the first consequence.
Third fight against Tyson Fury.
Once again, Wilder does not have great defense. What he likes to do is that he likes to be on the back foot or the mid-range. He does not have any great defensive tactics. He just doesn't. He's never been a great defensive fighter. He's pretty much all offense.
And also the lankiness. Like, Wilder has that...
Side of Wilder to try and cut the ring down.
Parker, on the other hand, fighting for the fourth time this year.
And Parker should take it.
There with the right hand. And Parker wisely getting inside, trying to smother that punch,
Which is the kind of stuff you see from bantamweights.
Once again, Wilder, a lot of the times, whenever you throw punches against him, and he's up against the ropes especially, take a look at what he does for a defensive tactic. His hands are both away from his face because he's trying to defend to the body. Zhang is also going to be lengthier than what Wilder is usually used to facing. So is it possible that that's going to happen and then Zhang catches him with a good overhand left or a good overhand right? It's very possible. Once again, Zhang is the better technical fighter of the two.
And not like Deontay Wilder. So he's clearly looking for one big shot.
And one big shot is what Parker was just looking for. Deontay Wilder is a natural explosive puncher. One of the most things is that fierce mentality, that fighter mentality, that warrior mentality. So the fight's going to explode any minute. I think, the one is going to take away from the legs, especially.
Great right hand by Parker. If I'm Zhang, and if I have Deontay Wilder up against the ropes, I'm trying to tie him up and land certain punches on the inside. And I'm trying to also use my size to wear down Deontay Wilder because even though he is a heavyweight in terms of height and length, in terms of his weight, he's not super heavy. He's only about 220 pounds, even if that at times. So you can get Deontay Wilder to tire out a little bit.
When you're not a mover, you're not accustomed to being a boxer and using the entire ring.
A rise through as Wilder moves to his left. But that
Joseph Parker was defending that right hand very well throughout the whole entire fight. he not only would he keep both hands up, but he would also always move his head off the center line, always move it down. So it was very hard for Deontay Wilder to get in that right hand. Now, what I will state is this. Parker was kind of doing the same maneuver a little bit too often. So Wilder was starting to kind of notice, and I think he landed a couple of good uppercuts against Parker a little bit later on that kind of stunned him a little bit, or at least made Joseph Parker think twice. So you got to be careful with Wilder. Don't be a little bit too repetitive, because no, he's not the smartest boxer in the world, but he will eventually see it. So you got to be careful here. So Zhang has to make sure that his movements are not repetitive, that he moves his head, and that he'll try to use his feet in the first place. As for Deontay Wilder, try not to overextend your punches. Use that lead hand, throw feints, go to the body against that of Zhilei Zhang, and once again, don't let him on the inside. Try to keep him at the end of your jab.
That's what we're waiting for, that explosive 1-2.
It was a 3-2.
Parker, and now the right hand lands from Wilder.
Wilder, as you can see here, also was not great at defending a right hand, but I'm going to be very curious to see how that right hook lands for that of a Zhilei Zhang, and I do believe that it is going to land.
And there's to get touched. He's going to go look.
Touched again, and then Wilder throwing a chopping right hand.
Slightly now, creeping a little bit more. He's looking for that right hand again.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That you get the feeling. You get the feeling of boxing. You're just not backing up and
Find the right hand.
And you look like you're actually trying to find an opening.
Was one of them, but missed.
Once again, Wilder not a great defensive fighter. He does not have any answers if you end up backing him up. That's why we've seen this against Fury. That's why we've also seen it against Parker. And there's a very possible chance that we'll also see it against Zhang. But still, we also seen the Robert Alenius clip. Do not get too careless, because Wilder can knock you out at any given moment in time.
Good attempts on moments. Nothing really landed cleanly, but yes, he's getting closer and closer.
And it's going to be harder to hit Parker because Parker is shorter and he's a guy that's a little bit speedier and more maneuverable than that of a Zhilei Zhang. Zhang is taller. He's about the same size as Deontay Wilder in terms of height and length. So Wilder may be a little bit more comfortable in terms of throwing a right hand on the back foot that may land against that of Zhilei Zhang.
So is Wilder. The reason this came up short is because he didn't have his left foot in the door. He's a little bit too far away.
Deontay Wilder really hasn't thrown anything up until this point. You see Joseph Parker being the aggressor more over these
He's not countering. He's not setting up anything. It's Parker that's trying.
If Zhilei Zhang has Deontay Wilder up against the ropes like that, keep your head a little bit lower and don't keep it so high, because that's what Deontay Wilder is going to be looking for. He's going to be looking for a get out of, an escape card, basically with his right hand. That's what he's going to be looking for.
To set up something. It's Parker on the puncher, so you can't change too much.
There was a right hand from Parker. Again, he's scoring the point.
Double jab. He needs to double feint, step in twice, then look for the right hand.
Almost he's looking for one shot. An overhand right from Parker seems to graze Wilder.
You're winning every round, and there's so much more you can do. He's breaking down.
In that corner would be thrilled the way that Parker started. Like you say, within the rounds, he's taking the space away from Wilder. He's trying to make things.
Parker's doing a great job that the right-handed Deontay Wilder is nullified. Whether he's throwing the lead hand or the left hook first to kind of nullify it, and then duck down and then throw the overhand right, which oftentimes is countering that of Deontay Wilder. Zhang, once again, that right hook, in my view, is going to be his most important weapon within this fight.
Landed.
Not looking for the knockout. You haven't said one negative thing about Wilder, where he hasn't attempted to do anything.
Plan B is plan A.
Plan B is plan A, exactly.
Devastating punch.
And as you just seen, what the announcer stated is that plan B is plan A. So what were they stating about Deontay Wilder? He's pretty much a plan A fighter. Wilder, especially if you put him in trouble, he doesn't really have a plan B. Deontay Wilder is a complete plan A fighter. He's a very one-dimensional fighter. Is he a very dangerous one-dimensional fighter? Yes, he is. But at the end of the day, he is a one-dimensional fighter. Now, that being stated, I think that Zhang is more dimensional than that of Deontay Wilder. But a lot of the times, he hasn't really had the greatest of game plans either. That's why he lost against Joseph Parker. He could not pick up the pace against that of Joseph Parker, and that's why he ended up losing.
Usually don't have a plan B because they've been so successful knocking out everyone to see.
That's a punch that Wilder really loves to throw, especially when he's on the back foot and you have him trapped in the corner. He is going to try to throw that right hand. So Zhang needs to make sure, unlike Robert Alenius, that he does not overextend, because Wilder is going to be trying to land that punch. All right, he's going to be trying to land that punch if you force him in the corner. So be technical, be tactical, be careful. And as for Deontay Wilder, you don't want Zhang to get you there in the first place. Don't overextend your jab, because Zhang is going to be trying to get you with that lead hand. All right, or excuse me, he's going to be trying to get you with that right hook. So if Wilder, does not turn with his punches, which he never really has very well, Wilder is going to be in a little bit of trouble in my view, because Zhang is going to be looking to land that right hook over the top and also that left hand. And that right hook, in my view, is going to be very impactful for Zhang within this fight if Wilder does overextend his lead hand or overextend his right hand, which oftentimes he does.
Parker's getting closer and closer.
Over the top.
And there's Wilder now starting to...
Once again, Deontay Wilder advertises his right hand quite a bit.
Yeah, into the body for Parker, who's gaining more and more confidence, but that could be a double.
Bro, of course I want to pick up the AK. Who picks up the axe? Let's get the RPG. Let's go. Oh my God, so close. All right, who are we going to get? This guy to the left, it's got a...
Double
Incredible. It is breathtaking.
Was enough to give it to Parker. He's just landing the cleaner punches. They're not coming in a high
To get a foothold into the contest.
getting bullied with taller, leaner fighters.
There's a right hand. Wilder tries to follow up on it.
That's what I want to see more of, though. That explosive speed.
There it is.
Excellent right hands by that of Mr. Joseph Parker. But I may end this soon because there's not really much else to see here. As we can see, Deontay Wilder, he's a guy, once again, that is not great defensively, especially on the back foot. He really doesn't have great defense whatsoever. In my view, what advantages will Wilder have within this fight? I think that he'll have the hand speed and the foot speed over that of Zhilei Zhang. It's possible that he also may have the stamina over that of Zhilei Zhang. But in terms of the technical standpoint, there's almost nothing that he has over that of Zhilei Zhang. To be quite honest with you, there's nothing that he has technically over that of Zhilei Zhang whatsoever. He doesn't have the better feet. He doesn't have the better head movement. He doesn't have the better defense. He doesn't have, or defense, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't have, that of the better lead hand or the better jab. He doesn't have, overall that of the counters up the top like what a Zhilei Zhang has. To be honest with you, there's just really not one category that I see in terms of a technical standpoint that I see Wilder having an advantage over that of Zhilei Zhang.
As Wilder stumbled back a little bit.
Just came up short right there. Parker. Missing that. Big shot.
Excellent by Mr. Joseph Parker, probably putting on the best defensive performance that I have ever seen from him. Keeping his hands up, ducking that right hand throughout the whole entire time. Now, maybe it was just because Wilder, maybe he made it too easy for Joseph Parker. Maybe Wilder was never going to beat Joseph Parker even several years ago. But, what I will state is this. I give Joseph Parker a lot of credit, because, he could have potentially ended up as another knockout victim by being stupid and not being defensively responsible. He was defensively responsible throughout this whole entire fight.
Second, and Wilder ends it.
Love those three jabs right there. Up, down, up. That's it.
Excellent right hand by that of Mr. Joseph Parker. Excellent overall fake out to the body. And once again, why did Wilder get hit there? Because he does not keep his hands up. A lot of the times his defensive maneuver is to put his hands out, which leaves his face wide open. You can tell that he relies a lot on that length and that reach. Let's rewind that.
And Wilder ends it.
Love those three jabs right there. Up, down, up. That's it.
There it is. Once again, Wilder does not keep his hands up.
With the flurry.
Oh, wow. Darren, that's exactly what you said. Duck, who so far has fought a brilliant game plan.
That overhand again, guys.
Excellent fight by Mr. Joseph Parker within this fight. Pretty much won every single round, if not winning every single round. But that pretty much is going to be about it for the video today, because I think that I pointed out every single point that I needed to. Who do I believe is going to win the fight? I think that it's a fight that truly is 50-50, because If Deontay Wilder is active early enough throughout this fight and hits Zhang with something, of course Zhang could potentially go down. He's not a guy that moves excellently well, either with his feet or with that of his head movement. But if I had to predict who I think is going to win the fight, I do believe that Zhilei Zhang is more than likely going to win the fight, probably by stoppage. I'm going to predict a stoppage within anywhere from rounds 5 to 7. Would I be surprised if it was earlier or later from either fighter? No, I wouldn't. What advantages do I believe Deontay Wilder is going to have within the fight? Once again, I believe that he'll have the hand speed. I believe that he'll have the foot speed. And it's possible that he also may have the stamina and the activity over that of Zhilei Zhang, especially if Zhilei Zhang starts to exhaust himself and if he's not able to get on the inside, because Zhang is not a guy that he doesn't have bad feet. Once again, his feet are good. But at the end of the day, he does not have super quick feet. And he's not a guy, because of his size, like a Tyson Fury, who can move in and outside, as well as what a Fury does for his weight or his tonnage. So once again, we'll see what ends up happening. But, it'll be very particularly interesting, But I'm going to go with Zhang within this fight. Once again, Wilder's advantages, I believe that he will have potentially the activity and the stamina at times if Zhang allows him overall, once again, to get off a little bit. And on top of that, of course, Wilder will have the speed, the foot speed, and that of the hand speed, and potentially the punching power, at least within that of his right hand. What advantages do I believe that Zhang has? Pretty much everything else. I think that Zhang, that he has the technical ability. I think that he has the better defense. I think that, that he is better with his lead hand. I think he's a better counterpuncher than Deontay Wilder. I think that he's less advertising with his punches than that of Deontay Wilder. What is the advice that I would give to both gentlemen? For Zhang, try to employ that right hook over the top. Wait for Deontay Wilder to overextend, but he's a little bit quicker than what you think. So make sure to change levels with your head. Make sure to take a half step or a full step back. Sometimes against Deontay Wilder, he's a little bit lengthier than what you might think. So don't just stay within the range. Don't let those punches get close enough to where eventually they can hit your chest and then hit you, right? Where Wilder is going to build up time and then, eventually enough IQ to see that he can reach you. So make sure that that doesn't end up happening. So that's the advice that I would give to Zhang. Don't get too crazy. Don't get too wild. Be defensively responsible. Be intelligent with that lead hand like what you usually are, but be active enough. Don't let Wilder outpoint you in some of these rounds or get comfortable enough to the point to where he's going to eventually be able to hit you with something that you're not going to be able to recover from. That would be my advice to Zhilei Zhang. If I was going to give a game plan to Deontay Wilder, start off busy and start off active from the first round. Jab him to the belly. Excuse me. Get some right uppercuts or some right hooks in there from the first start to that of the stomach of Zhilei Zhang. He doesn't appear to defend to the body extremely well. Don't overextend your lead hands. Don't overextend your right hand. Don't try, overall to land it way too much. And on top of that, don't pull your arm back, as much as what you do. You're going to have to throw it straight down the pipe and advertise it way less, because Wilder always advertises his right hand, and it's very easy to see a lot of the times when it's coming. So go to the body very early on. You're going to have probably the superior hand speed and the superior foot speed. Try to use that once again. Don't overextend your lead hand. Don't try to play, this lead hand way too much. Get in there and get out of the range. And, try to land the right hands early. And then maybe eventually Zhang will land something. Or maybe you can land something against Zhang because he ended up opening up to his head a little bit more. Or maybe you can hurt him severely to the body. Who knows? But Wilder is going to have to be very careful and watch out for that overhand right hook that he is going to be throwing over the top. Because if you overextend your left hand, your lead hand, and you end up overextending your right hand, it's very possible that a right hook is going to be coming straight to your chin. So watch that, watch out. You're going to have to move your head, keep your chin tucked, make sure to keep your hands up a little bit, get in and outside of the range, duck your head a little bit when you're throwing that lead hand. Don't just have your head straight up in the air. Do I believe that Wilder's going to do any of those things? No, I don't, but we'll see what happens. That's why I'm going to go with Zhang by stoppage within this fight, but we'll see what ends up happening. This is a very dangerous fight for either gentleman. It's truly a fight that could go either way because it's going to depend on how active Deontay Wilder is from the get-go and also who is able to land against who first. I believe more than likely that Wilder, that it's possible that he may be able to land something first, but I believe that Zhang will get the last laugh, and that's what I personally believe. But we'll see what happens. But this is truly a fight that could go either way. And if you're also asking my prediction for the Filip Hrgović versus Danny Dubois fight, I'm going with that of Filip Hrgović. I believe that he's the superior technical boxer. I think that he's going to be more confident heading into here. Now, do I believe that he's as good as what some people try to claim him to be? No, not necessarily. I think he's a bit too stiff, and I think he doesn't change levels anywhere near enough, and I think that he could be better defensively. But Danny Dubois has all those same faults, if not even more. So I believe that Filip Hrgović more than likely will win that of the Danny Dubois fight, more than likely by stoppage or that a unanimous decision. If there's a stoppage, I'll predict around round 8 to round 9. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I have Zhilei Zhang winning this fight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And that's about it for today. Shout out once again to some of the channels that I reviewed here, which was, That's Why MMA and a couple of the other channels, I believe. I'll have to take a look, at who I ended up reviewing here, and I'll give them, of course, the shout out in the comment section below. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.